This is the soft locked rematch. Basically, the story goes that Solefad had a really big lead. I would say about 5 minutes, and he soft locked the game. It's an avoidable thing that you can take steps to avoid. You basically need to not leave the screen on the same frame that you level up. But Xarnax felt that he was way ahead, and it's kind of a crappy way for things to end. So Xarnax actually immediately said, "Let's do a rematch." Offered the rematch to him, and Solefad graciously accepted. So this is their rematch here. Xarnax giving up his free win here and opting instead to try to go for an honest match. He didn't have to do that. The soft lock is avoidable. It's not something that that is just bad luck that it happens to you. I mean, you do have to be pretty unlucky for it to happen. But it's I think a lot of players feel that it's somewhat fair for someone to be punished for not avoiding it. I mean, it's a really harsh punishment for a silly thing, but it is totally avoidable. So I don't think every player here in this tournament would offer that rematch. I think they would feel that it's totally fair to accept the win there. And that's just a matter of opinion, I suppose.
Yeah, it's the kind of thing you probably would decide ahead of time. If I do soft lock, or if the other guy soft locks, what will I say? And maybe it's even worth discussing with your opponent. You can make a little deal with them ahead of time, because the soft lock is a thing. But at the same time, it's something that's avoidable. And if you've got some experience in Zelda 2, you know when to be aware of it. And if you screw up and you soft lock, it's totally your fault. I mean, you were playing it too close to the edge there, and you could have just waited to the edge of the screen. So, you could look at it either way. But at the same time, it really does feel better to win because you actually got a better time than your opponent than it does to win because your opponent had something, completely unrecoverable happen to them. I mean, it's one thing like, a death, a game over, whatever, but soft lock, that's it. Race is over. You're done. So. Alright, looks like we're going to have game audio from Solefad this time. And in just a moment, I'll get the PB times updated, and then I think we can get going with this race.
Nice.
Alright, we got the PBs updated. I think we have everything we need here to do this.
I just realized it would probably be a good idea if I was not looking at our restream of the race, but instead the 15-second less delayed version. So I'll go ahead and get those up. But yeah, I'm ready here.
That is an interesting question. What if there is another soft lock? I bet that this time, if it's Xarnax who soft locks, I bet Solefad will give him the benefit of the doubt. Give him return the favor for him, I guess. It's change of background rematch. That's right. Race 2. Looks like they're about to begin here.
Well, it would be nice if that was a reference to the fact that this is a rematch. I do think he used the name Race 2 last time. I suppose this is a losers bracket round 1, right?
It would be a second race.
This would be their second race, yes.
Yeah. All right, so it looks like Xarnax is leaving and Solefad is leaving. So that's about where we are in terms of the delay mythical. And we see them going into this first magic cave here. The important thing to do in this cave is get the 50 bag drop. I'm not sure if either or both of these guys has a particular pattern that they're trying to set up here. Maybe an audio cue, maybe some sort of visual cue for where you kill the enemy, but let's see if they get a 50 bag. And we see no 50 bags, so that means that both players are going to have to find some other source of experience, otherwise they're not going to end with Palace 1 with a 4-1-1 leveling, which is pretty much the ideal thing to have. So we see, looks like both of them going for early trophy cave this time. So this is a good way to pick up 40 experience, kill 2 Octoroks and a Goria. That'll give you 40, which is close enough to 50 that you can continue on to Palace 1.
That's right. Last time Xarnax did not get the 50 drop. It was the start of a chain of events that led to not getting attack 4 and then not getting attack 6 after Palace 2, and he was behind for the whole run, really, and it just cost him time all over, both because you do have less attack, so you do take more hits to kill things, but also because you're just unfamiliar with it and you end up having to improvise a lot, and generally that's going to cost you some time. So let's see if he's able to recover from this situation more cleanly this time.
Both players going for the shield spell here. This is not a required spell, and most categories would skip it, but if you're doing 100% you have to get it. And it's sort of a good thing that you have it, because once you do get it, there's a lot of useful places for it. Any spot that you think is risky is a good candidate, but shield spell is the kind of thing where you have to decide ahead of time if you're going to be using it or not. You can't. If you've already taken a bunch of damage from a boss or an enemy or something like that, it's a little too late to cast shield. But once players start to become more familiar with themselves and with the route, they understand where they're likely to get hit. And you can sort of preemptively cast shield. It's a relatively inexpensive spell, so it's fine to do it preemptively and end up not using it. That's not the end of the world. In this category, you generally have a lot of magic to work with because you're not using the fairy spell to go through doors all the time like you are in some other categories. So we see Solefad trying to set up a bubble skip here. There's a bubble encounter, and he doesn't manage to get it. He needed a different enemy pattern, but he would have wanted to skip this encounter that you see him entering here. You can trigger one of those overworld monsters to appear, and then follow you all the way down to that spot on the path. Oh, Xarnax starting in a little bit the wrong spot, but he doesn't get a favorable monster pattern anyway. And if you get a random overworld encounter on the same tile that you would have gotten one of these fixed encounters, the random overworld encounter will take precedence, and those are generally
these
faster.
Encounter skips are a big part of running this game. They're all over the place, and they're really not easy to do. Anything that involves manipulating or moving around overworld encounters is very tricky stuff, and but it saves so much time. It's the difference between, a 120 time and a 130 time, I think, comes mostly from better management of these encounters and these encounter skips.
Alright, Solefad coming into this palace here. And Xarnax fortunately managing to dodge those monsters, so that's going to be good for him. So, in Palace 1, well, we should define what this category is. This is 100% all keys, 1cc. 100% means you've got to get all spells, all dungeon items, all sword techniques, and all heart containers and magic containers. The one thing that you don't need to get is 888 for your level up. You can take whatever leveling you want. Experience level is not part of the goal definition. But the all keys restriction is an additional restriction that says you have to collect all the keys, and specifically it says that if you're going to go through a door, you have to have the key for that door. There are some places where you can bypass a door. You might see a ceiling walk in Palace 6 that passes a door, but in this category you have to at least have the key that you would need for that door to be able to do that. And if you want to cast Fairy and go through a door, that's okay, as long as you already have the key that you should need to open the door, and you'll actually see the door open animation. So that's the rules to it, to the all keys. And then the 1cc part, the way this category was originally defined, it was meant to be done without intentional game overs, taking game overs in order to warp back to the starting temple, which is in some cases a lot faster than backtracking. You would take intentional game overs, or you would hit up A on the second controller, which forces an intentional game over. But this category, you're supposed to do it without it. They really mean for you to do this whole thing and, experience all the parts of all the levels without skipping any of it. However, in a race, people are going to accidentally game over because it's a race. It happens. You can't reset. You only got one try. So to prevent people from pretending that they got an accidental game over but actually using it to save time, they make you go all the way back to the room where you died, or where you game overed, if you happen to game over any place. Or if you die in the overworld, you've got to go back to the tile that you got the encounter on.
Right, we've seen game overs become huge swings in time in a couple different matches. It's going to be at least 2 minutes, and depending on where it happens, it can be closer to like 3, 4, 5. So the chances of winning after a game over are very, very slim. You're kind of hoping that the other guy also game overs at that point. So, you're not out of the race, but man, does it hurt.
Well, we see Solefad going through this room with the skull bubbles there. The reason he got... That was a pretty good pattern that he got, and the reason he got it is because he did a manipulation where, just before coming down the elevator, he struck the wall so that Link was over at the right side of the elevator going down. Let's see if Xarnax does it. Xarnax does not do it, so look at the patterns that he gets. Actually, he's in better shape this way because he's got the beam sword. So this is probably a better pattern for him. But Solefad was doing that without the beam sword, so that's why he had to do that manipulation. I think both of these players are aware of that technique. Just Xarnax choosing not to use it because with beam sword, it's better to just go with the default RNG. Getting the candle picked up here. This is one of the things that makes this category friendly to newer players, that you don't have to do Death Mountain in the dark. Most other categories, basically anything that isn't 100%, is going to involve doing Death Mountain in the dark, because no one wants to go all the way out of their way here to pick up this candle.
Yeah, not when you can memorize every room in the game.
That's right.
Fun.
Yeah.
But necessary for other categories. Teabag there.
There it is, Solefad. Just now gets it. And he's got all the experience he needs at this point. He's kills this skeleton, and he's now at 398. So he's got plenty of experience. Xarnax also is going to have to get a P-Bag. They've got 2 opportunities. That first skeleton, the one that Solefad got it from, is... Uh-oh, a death from Solefad already, so... Looks like Xarnax is going to catch up a little bit because of that. Although he does not get the 200 bag. We saw Xarnax getting a red jar. It's a 50-50 chance getting a 200 bag. You'll either get red jar, which refills your magic, or you'll get the 200 bag, and these guys really want that 200 bag because being able to come out of Palace 1 with attack 4 is going to be extremely important for how smooth the rest of the run goes.
Yeah, it starts in Death Mountain, basically. Lets you kill things in about 2 less hits. All the important enemies, the Dairas, they take 2 less hits to die, and often that not only saves time just from the time it takes to attack twice, but also the strategies you need to use against some of those enemies. If you have to do more hits, you need to give yourself more room. Looks like Xarnax gets his P-Bag there right at the end. So good on him. We're going to have a... Unless we get an accidental level up. Looks like he's even got enough for life 2 here. I think he may have got a P-Bag. You sure? Okay. Oh, he's 50 short. Oh man. So that life level up must have been a mistake then. I know he was at low HP, so he maybe decided, like, I'm just gonna take this life up to not die. Values the extra life over following the XP route. It's I mean, time-wise, it's definitely slower, but there's maybe an argument that it's safer. So, as a newer player, no. And that's going to prevent you from getting 7 by the end of 3 and 8 by the end of 4. You're always going to be behind by that one attack. If he was really worried about his lives, wouldn't, like, you die, you take the death, but you make sure you keep on the experience track to get attack 4, and then you're pretty close to the palace, right? So what if you game over on an overworld encounter outside the palace? How long would that take? And would it be the same amount of time as if as he's going to lose from not having attack 4 and maybe not following this route? Yeah. Or not, sorry, not Valley of, did I say Valley of Death? Right in front of the beginning palace where Zelda is. Right where yeah. Because you have to pass by there on your way out of Palace 1, right? So there's potential to take an intentional game over, rarely a good idea. But maybe in that one situation, if he really wants that life, that is an option. But he's made his decision. He took the life level up, and he's banking on some P-Bags here in Palace 2. So, and I guess in Death Mountain 2 is where they start dropping. Oh boy, this is fun. They can hear me, but they can't hear you in the stream.
Ah.
Man,
My
how
mic
does that
came
happen?
unplugged. I fixed it.
Oh,
My mic
there it
cable's
is.
unplugged.
But you weren't on Skype. I was totally hearing you and talking to you, and everything was great. So it's just me talking to myself.
Oops. Well,
all right, we're fixed.
I'll do twice as good a job commentating for the rest of it.
So just repeat everything you said up to now.
Repeat everything I said.
All of it. 15 minutes worth.
Okay. Well, I can talk about the leveling. So right now we see Solefad with 412 as his level, and he's in good shape. He's got just the attack level that he wants right now, whereas Xarnax is a little bit behind. He's at 312, so he's got to make up enough experience to earn attack 4, and then attack 5, and then enough experience to get past the magic and life 2 experience threshold so that he can earn attack 6 at the crystal at the end of Palace 2. And unfortunately that's going to require a lot of drops to go his way. There's maybe about 5 or 6 opportunities for the large enemies to be dropping the 200 bags for him. It's got a 50-50 shot of getting a 200 bag versus a red jar. And in yesterday's race, we saw Xarnax was in the same situation. He ended up getting red jars almost every time. So we know it is possible to get horrible luck and be unable to get the experience threshold.
Yep, he knows all too well. So keep an eye out for P-Bags here as he makes his way through Death Mountain.
That's right.
Did lose Beam Sword pretty early on. Poked by a moblin there. That helps a lot in some of these early rooms of Death Mountain, particularly these bats that are coming up, I think, in the next room.
That's right. Yeah, we see Xarnax killing that blue Goria that's normally skipped, but he needs to kill absolutely everything because he's got to really rack up the experience. Yeah, a bit of a rough room Xarnax is going through here. This is a place where you really want to have the beam sword. The bats are pretty hard enemies to deal with because you don't know which way they're going to go. It's a 50-50 chance if they go left or right.
Yeah, with 3 bats, that gives you 8 different patterns you kind of need to be ready for.
Mm-hmm. And Solefad's first chance at a drop, he doesn't need it though. It doesn't matter for him what it is, but getting that 200 bag that he got there means he'll get his attack 5 a little bit sooner. Might be helpful in saving a few hits on 1 or 2 enemies someplace, so he's happy to go back and pick it up.
Yeah, and while getting that P-Bag also steals it from Xarnax, right? That's how
Right.
it works.
So now Xarnax is going to get a red jar, probably.
Yep, very smart play on his part.
And here's the free red jar you get at the end of Death Mountain before entering Spectacle Rock.
This bat's giving it to him. He does have life too, though. It's helping him out a little here. Shield spell definitely doing work too.
Yep, if he wants to be able to get the attack levels, he's probably going to want to skip Magic 2 and or skip Life 3. He might want to just stick with 312 and then 412.
Right, the more you go on... Oh, there's a red jar.
Uh-oh.
It begins.
It begins. Let's see, that's the first of many red jars I think we're going to see here.
From good old Xarnax. So, yeah, basically... I guess based off of that drop, he now knows I'm already down 1 chance for a P-Bag. So skipping Magic 2 or Life 3 is starting to look more and more like the thing to do. It gets a 50 drop though.
That'll help.
1 in
Every
8
little bit
chance.
helps.
That'll help a little bit.
Yep. Solefad getting the hammer right now. Quite a bit ahead of Xarnax at this point. Solefad, though, has had a death, so that puts him a little bit closer to game over. We'll see if either or both players goes for the graveyard 1-up. And Xarnax having quite a hard time. When you're only attack level 3, you've got to fight that red Daria much differently. You've got to let the Daria come out from the wall a little bit to give yourself some room to work on him. But right there, he ended up pushing him back underneath the low overhanging part, and that is really tough. That's a spot that killed me during my race, because I had attack 3 there and was not ready for doing that fight under those conditions.
Yeah, just another example of how attack 3 loses more time than you'd think.
And right here, he's also got to let that red Daria come out a little bit. This is really important that you don't push this guy back too far, because if you push this guy off the screen, that enemy will despawn. Oh goodness.
Another
He
jar.
got another red jar. The Xarnax luck begins again here. But yeah, if you push that enemy off the screen, the enemy will just like fall off the bottom of the screen as if it was a pit, and you won't have killed it. So when Xarnax comes back after getting the hammer, there'll be a red area that spawns right there in front of the door, and very tricky to get through without getting hit or dying.
Meanwhile, everything's going pretty smooth for Solefad. Grabs the hammer, grabs the magic container. He's taken the shortcut back home, and he's ready to start collecting some items and completing some side quests here before he heads on to Palace 2.
So Xarnax take Magic 2 there. I probably wouldn't have done that, given that he's so tight on experience. That's just more XP that he could have used to reach the attack levels that he needs. I could understand taking Life 3 just for safety, but, you know, Magic 2 I don't think is terribly necessary. But he did this in the race yesterday as well, so I think this is part of his route. I don't think that was a mistake. I think it's just the way he's used to doing this. And as I think we've said before in these races, sometimes the best strat is the one that you're familiar with.
He casts life there and then goes back for a jar and takes about as much damage as he refilled, and then the jar doesn't give you as much as he spent on the life spell, so not a great trade there.
Well, yeah,
for Xarnax.
The ironies of Zelda 2. Go after a blue jar and end up worse off. Alright, we've seen Solefad do a setup here. Oh man, he was really hoping to get an encounter on that square one to the left of the boulder. He's got to keep walking if he needs the next encounter. There we go. And now he gets it. So this spot is pretty important, and I don't really blame him for taking that extra time to get that encounter there, because watch how nice this is going to be. This is going to be so smooth as soon as he walks off the path here. There we go. Both enemies spawn at basically the same time. They get behind him, and now nothing can catch him as he goes through the swamp. So he's still better off than he would have been if he had just gone for it when he didn't get that encounter the first time.
Yep, that is the Boulder Dash, which is the name I've come up with, and I'm determined to make it stick. As sad as that is, but no, I didn't come up with it. I approve of it. Credit goes to the great Gildersons. Anyway, not important. The fact is, it's just one of a number of sort of setups to manipulate the overworld encounters that runners have come up with this game, because for a long time that was the thing holding things back. It was, this luck with these monsters, and I got another encounter between here and there. Yep. And so, you know, frustrated, they said, well, let's try to solve this. And so they came up with all these little ways. Well, you stop here, take an encounter here, 2 extra steps here, and it lines things up. So you're going to see, we're going to point out all of these. Hopefully we catch them all in time, but they're like, you wouldn't know what's going on basically unless someone told you, and it's actually making a huge difference in the run, so we definitely want to point those out.
Yep, that is something that we didn't see people doing a couple of years ago. There was much less manipulation of overworld encounters. There's a lot more that's known about it now. And
one of the ways this game, and I mean all speedruns kind of evolve over time, but this game in particular has seen kind of a steady growth and change over the years that a fair number of people have been putting time into it. Xarnax does not go for it.
Doesn't go for it, and you see what happens. It's very tricky to avoid anything in the swamp.
Swamp encounter, gets hit by an Octorok. He's not doing so great on resources. He'll probably be fine, but...
And he may even get into another one before he gets in. He does, but fortunately it's a fairy encounter. He probably is not too upset about that. And he takes the 1-up early. Normally people like to duck into this 1-up encounter on the way out because it helps set up the monsters for an easier escape when you're leaving the medicine cave. But this medicine right here that he's picking up is necessary to get the fairy spell. Some of the spells that you pick up, you can just do something in town, talk to the right person, and you get them. But some of the spells you actually have to pick up an item from somewhere else, and this is one of those.
Yeah, a trophy, a bottle of medicine, or an entire child.
An entire child, yes.
Pick them up and go. That's the quest that Solefad is in the middle of completing, as well as getting the... Oof.
Was that intentional, I wonder?
For what? Just the time savings, or
It does save. Well, it doesn't. It does save time to do that, to die there rather than walk back. But the amount of the one-up that you're picking up to do that would be the graveyard one-up, which is far enough out of the way that it isn't actually worth it to get the graveyard one-up and take the death there. The only time you would do that is if you had low magic, and he did have low magic, not enough to cast the jump spell in this upcoming town. So you actually would see a lot of players taking a death there just to get their magic refilled. But the irony is that he had a red jar that dropped right in front of him, so that was his magic refill, that was his ticket right there.
Right.
So I'm not really sure what the aim was. Let's see what Solefad's going to do.
It's getting some
here.
fairies here.
Oh, there we go.
But he dodges them.
That's can sometimes be a tricky spot to deal with encounters, but he seemed to do pretty well with it.
Yeah, the fairies do not follow the rules that other monsters do. So when you're counting on the monsters to behave in certain ways, the fairies will usually throw a wrench in your plans, and then once you get an encounter with them, they reset all these encounter timers. They throw everything off. So the fairies can be a bit trolly sometimes, even though they're just trying to help. Question in chat: 1-up dolls required? No, 100% does not cover the 1-up dolls, but they certainly help. In some cases, they actually save time to go out of your way and pick them up, because there are ways to use deaths to avoid backtracking and get refills on life and magic and stuff. And it's also just nice to have some backup in case things go wrong, because boy, have things gone wrong for people. This game is pretty difficult.
Oh no, controller death.
No, he said he was going to get a new controller.
He said he was getting a new controller. This was happening to him yesterday. His D-pad was stopping working here.
He's out of there, but man, is he shaken. Doesn't have enough for life, so this is actually a really dangerous Octorok encounter he's got to deal with.
Alright, he can get in here and he gets a magic refill, and if I were him, I would take that to refill my life. Free magic refill, and there he is, doing the life spell.
He's got no choice but to just keep going. I don't think he has a backup controller here.
That's right, we were just talking about this yesterday. He had a few instances where his controller stopped working. One of them, he was standing on one of those breakable bridges and just dropped right into the lava.
Just dropped right in, and we were like, "What? Why would he death
Like,
work?"
wow, that's a weird place to
shoot,
death
the controller.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's gotta be really frustrating for him. I mean, the soft lock is one thing. The soft lock is the main reason why they're doing this rematch here, not the technical difficulties with the controller. But I don't think, as good as Xarnax is, I don't think he is the saint who is willing to offer yet another rematch over these controller issues. So I think like Solefad's just got to play it out and just hope that whatever bubblegum and duct tape he's using to keep his controller together holds for another hour or so.
Yeah, I never asked what he's playing on, if he's playing on a PC and using some sort of controller that's having driver issues, or if it's actually a mechanical failure of his controller. But we'll see. Well, we have Xarnax coming through the swamp right now. Let's see what kind of encounter situation he's got to deal with. Oh, it could have gone well for him, but didn't quite get the pattern he wanted.
Yeah, you kind of, basically based off of luck, you have to decide whether you're going to wait on the path and hope an enemy runs into you and then get a path encounter that's not very long, or you hope that they leave you alone and you don't have to do that and you can just keep going. So you kind of have to make that call pretty quick, and it looked like he opted to just run for it. The monsters looked like they were far enough away, and then they doubled back on him pretty quick there, so didn't pay off. It's not too much of a time loss, but it's those kinds of things that will add up very quickly over this run. So when you're already behind as far as he is, those are the kind of things that you really need to start going your way to get back in this race. That or have your opponent's controller malfunction.
Yeah.
Do it too.
You're usually hoping for a combination of something to go wrong on your opponent's race and for you to get better encounter luck. We have Solefad dealing with one of the more difficult rooms in the game. Any spot with these bots and with lava pit is usually bad news. In these races, we've seen a lot of people perish in rooms just like this. He manages to make it through okay. We see some people even go in there and cast the jump spell to make it easier, or get up to that key, grab it, and then cast Fairy so they don't have any chance of getting knocked off past that.
Solefad leaves behind a red jar drop there because he knows he's got one coming on the statue.
Yep. And that's guaranteed. You'll always get a red jar from that statue head on the wall.
Palace 2 is nice like that.
Yep, Palace 2 is very generous. Palace is a 1, 2, and 5. Anything that could be a red jar will be a red jar if you get it from a statue. The ones you get from enemies, of course, are still 50-50, but statues are always red jars. And Solefad has excellent luck with those falling blocks in that room. That's a spot that can really stop people. Hey, Xarnax actually gets a 200 bag. Looking up for him, but he's got a lot to go. He's got to make up 2,000 experience to get attack 5. And then beyond that, he's going to need another, let's see, Magic 2 is going to put it at, what, 150?
300? 400? I don't know.
I think 150 is what he needs.
So that's not too bad. Hopefully he doesn't take a magic level up, though, because not only is that going to cost 150 to do it, but it's also going to bump that number he needs up to about 300, so...
Maybe it's 200 that I'm thinking of. I think he needs 200. 150 was the threshold for Life
2?
3.
3.
It's 50 for Life 2, and then I think it's 150. And then the Magic 2, I think, is 200.
Right, I meant Life 3 because it's the second upgrade, but...
Right.
Called it 2. Anyway, it's looking like Solefad's controller's holding together here, so he's...
So far, don't say that, though, because that's
going to make it
continuing with
apart. Smooth progress through Palace 2 the way he will for the rest of the run forever.
Yes. No more hiccups, nothing else going wrong. Alright, we see Xarnax coming through the falling block room. He gets... Oh, it was getting a little rough, but he didn't get a triple stack, so that's good. What you don't want is a triple stack or a quadruple stack, because then you're probably going to have to turn around or cast the jump spell. Let's see if Xarnax goes for the fairy item get. He might not, considering his life is about half. Yeah, so he's not going to.
Save it in case he needs to cast life.
That's right, so you can cast Fairy and pick up an item as Fairy, and that skips the pickup animation. That several seconds that Link spends holding the item over his head, that's entirely skipped if you're using Fairy. So whenever possible, you will see people use the Fairy spell for that.
I think there's about 3 spots in terms of in palaces that are popular, but there's a couple of reasons not to in certain cases, and usually because your magic's tight, because the fairy spell costs an awful lot of magic, especially early on. P-bag for Xarnax.
P-bag, good for him.
In there.
If he gets one more, he'll be just fine, and even without, I think he may still be able to make it if he doesn't take life 3.
Well, he just had to cast a life spell, which pretty much completely drained his magic, as you can see. So he's a little low on resources. So the idea of taking a level up for life or magic here is going to be really appealing, especially if he takes all these hits in this gargoyle.
Yeah, this skeleton, what he should do, he should have jumped over the skeleton and gone over to those breakable blocks, and then turn around to fight the skeleton behind him instead of standing between those the projectiles from those heads.
Meanwhile, a great helmet head fight from Solefad there, and followed by the controller malfunction. Oh my gosh, it's back in it. So if it's as long as it happens there, he's only going to lose 5 seconds each time. But if it happens on a bridge that crumbles underneath your feet, he's going to lose a life, and that's going to be, who knows how much time lost. Death from Xarnax there. Didn't even get a chance to spend his level up on life. Gets taken out by this Doom Rattler there. He did get in and underneath the hammers, which is basically the whole thing with these Doom Rattlers. Wow, he's just really charging in there. You need to kind of pick your spot. If they don't want to let you in, there's not much you can do about it. So eventually they do give you a gap, and you get in there, and then once you're under the arc, you just got to be careful not to run into him. But Xarnax had too much speed there, couldn't stop in time. Link is he's got a fair amount of control, but he will slide around a little bit.
Yep, a little
bit. And just skidded right into the Doom Rattler there, and having to cast life again in his second fight with him, so he's really not liking these Doom Rattlers right now.
Yeah, he could go for a red jar. I don't know if he's going to do it, but yeah, that spot that he just walked over, you can dig down in those blocks and get a red jar. And it looks like Xarnax is okay on experience. He just got attack 5, and that's it. I think 200 is the amount that you need to get the big palace bonus, and you're going to get 200 from the boss. So he may even be able to... I don't know if he can take life 3 still. If he kills all these things, he might not be able to. His best bet is probably just to skip the rest of the enemies here.
Yeah, he does get a magic drop there. So, you know, for once the jar is the thing he does want here.
He passes it. He does not get it. Oh, it's 300. I'm sorry, it's 300 for the next magic level. So yeah, he's got plenty.
I was right.
And he's back on track, casting shield preemptively. He's going with some fairly traditional helmet head fighting strats.
Yep, there's a couple different ways you can go about it with getting crazy with the down stab and hitting him once on the way up and then down stabs over and then once on the way back down again, and it's real fun to dance all around his head there. But nice and safe, cleans him up there.
You should see him switching to the fairy spell while he put the crystal in that monument, but he didn't.
Yep, that's a little optimization.
It's a small
to point out because you why not? Why not do it? You got to do it. It's free. Do it.
Yep, and it's just familiarity with the route, just knowing that you've got use of fairy coming up, and maybe just some people don't know that you can do that. That's actually something that I wasn't aware of until maybe a year or so after I started running this. So I think that maybe not everyone knows, but the idea is when you place the monument or the crystal in the monument rather, you get this little fanfare music that plays, and during that time, if you switch in and out of the menu, it doesn't slow you down. The fanfare takes the same amount of time. So most people queue up their next spell that they're going to use during that time, which is almost always fairy. And so here we see Xarnax using the fairy spell at the first spot where it's required in the run.
That's right, there's 4 spots throughout the run. The fairy spell is required. Meanwhile, Xarnax has been working through Palace 3 here. Palace 3 does come back to back with Palace 2 in the route. So even though he was entering Palace 3 and Xarnax was only leaving Palace 2, you might think like, oh gosh, they're so far behind, but he's not that far behind. I would say about a minute and a half, I guess.
Probably, yeah. Solefad hasn't even gotten the raft yet as Xarnax is entering here.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, a minute and a half seems like a lot, but
it's less than a game
Zelda,
over.
It's less than a game over, for one. And this room here is really trolly with the bots and the lava pits. We've seen players lose a whole bunch of lives. Light Z, he was the 6th seed, I believe. Very good player. Lost 3 lives in that room. Shook him up pretty good. Solefad's through okay. Got the raft.
He's not going to cast the fairy spell, but he probably is going to cast the jump spell on his way out of here. I feel like if you're going to do one, you may as well do the other, because you're not going to have enough left over to cast life, I don't think. Right? I think life may be more expensive than 4 bars.
At Magic 3, it's close. It's definitely close.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
But the jump spell, pretty safe here. And you can't really fairy through that room. I was going to say you can just fairy through that room, but there's some blocks on either end there that you cannot break.
You will see people casting fairy in that room to avoid dying, but when you do, you got to backtrack the way you came and do the room again.
Yeah.
So this is actually a good palace for Xarnax to continue making up his experience. He can take life 3 here safely. There's plenty of experience available in here, so as long as you've gotten attack 6, whatever your magic and life levels are, you can make this work. Well, I mean, something crazy. If you were at, like, magic 6, life 5 or something like that, that might not be doable, but anything else, anything reasonable is going to be okay. We see people take up to life 4. I think we've seen some 6-3-4s in this dungeon. And we got Solefad coming down to the final floor of this. In just a moment we can talk about this Rebanak fight. First we'll see how Xarnax does in this lava pit room.
for spot. Happily suicides for him. Other
There we
one
go.
just as well.
You got some good patterns. Sometimes those bots hang around and just wait at the edge for you to make your jump so they control you. Alright, we got Solefad coming into the Rebanak fight here. Cast shield preemptively, you may as well. Certain spot you want to stand on. Looks like he is at that spot. And that's going to make this Rebanak stop directly against the left side of the screen, where you can just pin yourself up against it with down stab and bounce on his head.
Nice.
Which direction the Iron Knuckle goes after he's been knocked off the horse is a bit random. But most of the time he'll cooperate, and he did cooperate just fine.
Right. It can be a big problem if he goes to the left off screen. Because
that's the worst.
The way you need to fight him, basically, is you need to back up, give him a bunch of space, and then come at him with some jump attacks. So if he goes to the right, well, you've got a whole screen to work with, but if he goes to the left, you have to lure him all the way across the screen to give yourself the necessary space to finish the fight.
Solefad now getting his attack 7. You got the big bonus here. So what happens, I think we've explained this a little bit, but what happens is when you put the crystal into the monument at the end of the palace, the game looks at how much experience you have, and it looks at how much the next attack level, the next magic level, the next life level costs, and it will give you, it'll bump your experience up to the next level that you can't afford yet. So above the whatever levels you could afford right now, it'll go up to the next one that you can't afford. And always you want that to be the attack level, because the attacks are like 5 times more expensive than any of the other levels that you could take.
It looked like Xarnax got banged up there. He did pause on his last level up prompt. He considered Magic 4 or Life 4, and he thought about it for a little bit, and he opted to pass. So he does not have those options for fixing his life and magic situation right now. Living life on the edge a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit. He's not really gonna... Uh-oh.
There it is.
That's an unfortunate death. Not just the location, but the fact that he's now down to only 1 extra life. He can die one more time, and then after that it's going to be game over. And there's a spot in Palace 4 where almost everyone wants to take at least 1 death. We get Solefad picking up the fire spell. Not a very useful spell, but we've actually seen it get a little bit of use in this tournament. There's a few spots where some players choose to use it, other players don't use it whatsoever. It's really up to you. Xarnax coming into Rebanak. He's standing a little far to the left, I would have to say. He's got to be about 4 pixels further right. So yeah, you see that the Rebanak was a little too far off the screen for him to bounce on his head. And
here you see he's run out of screen to work with, so he's got to back up here. Oh, goes for the jackhammer.
Oh, he goes for the re-jackhammer. That's pretty clever. I like that.
The rejack. I like it.
The rejack.
And with that, he's out of this palace. He's down in lives, and he's definitely down in time by about 2 minutes, maybe 2.5 at this point. Though compared to his personal best, it looks like he's... I can't tell if that's minus 2 minutes or 2 seconds.
I think it's minus 2 minutes.
Dang, nice job. So that was a gold split for him. Despite being so far behind, he's probably feeling pretty okay about the way things are going here. It's hard to be doing better than your best ever and be mad that you didn't do good enough, right? So
yeah, he's actually up 1 minute and 13 from his PB.
I don't know how to read some of these newfangled split programs. Yeah. I'm an old-fashioned W split kind of guy. Maybe I'll put some pictures in there. But yeah, it took me a while before I even got the one with gold splits. That's how old school I am.
Alright, so we got some cool monster manipulations coming up. Solefad went for monster manipulations on the way into Maze Palace, but it didn't quite work out for him. But here we see he knows the right strat. You wait till the music hits a certain point, and then you start moving. Then you want to nick this little bit of grass here to get a distant spawn from the enemies. And now we're going to get the double enemy spawn right there before going off the grass. Similar to the boulder dash that we saw earlier. And now, oh, he was trying to pause buffer so that he could get that encounter. That monster was coming at him from the side to hit him just as he went onto this encounter tile. But
just a little too soon. Link is kind of considered to be in the square he is going to, and not the one he's leaving. So as long as you move even a pixel towards the square with the encounter, you'll be okay. And it is kind of neat that a monster can be both on the square that you're going to or the square you're coming from. There's two sort of tiles that will work for an encounter skip, and it gives it a bit of leeway on a thing that's a little finicky, but as you can see, that's not always enough, and these encounter skips are definitely not a sure thing.
We got a super jump going up here on the right side of the screen. He gets it on the third try. Third try is the magic number.
Yep.
That's when most people tend to get it. Yeah.
Something about it. I don't know. The first one is the screen transition, and the second one is because you just missed the first one. And then the third one, you're like, all right, let's do this. There it is.
Right, yeah, the first one's a little tricky because after the screen transition, you got to immediately hit the select button to cast jump, and then you got to sight the spot that you want to jump from. It's a little tricky. A lot of people miss it the first time. And then the second time is when you are really taking your first, real uninterrupted shot at it. And generally people, when they miss that, they're like, okay, it's because I'm too far left, and then they correct that and they get it on the third try. But yeah, 3 is by far the most common number we've seen in these races.
Pres J Poke swears he has a higher success rate getting it first try than any other try.
Huh?
So something about the screen transition just does it for him.
I could see that. Just a certain amount of frames passing after the screen transition, you could build that into your muscle memory.
Yep, he's definitely got some real sticky muscle memory. That's a really gross way of putting it a little bit, but it's strong. It stays with him. He actually, I believe, in his route, he opts to do Death Mountain in the dark, specifically because that's just the way he did it in a lot of other categories, and that's just what he knows. So when he tried to switch to something that is faster, it's just faster to not do it that way, and it's also safer. But his muscle memory would get thrown off, so...
Well, we saw Xarnax going for the pause buffer here. Solefad going for the pause buffer there.
Yeah.
Xarnax had some crazy encounter luck, so back there on his way into the Maze Palace, I don't know if you guys saw that, but he didn't do any kind of monster manipulation. He just walked into the forest and went for it. And he got close enemy spawns, which are really hard to dodge, and he ended up dodging all of them and getting no encounters.
Nice. He also did not do the encounter skip that Solefad did on the way to Darunia, so he gets one encounter, but he almost gets the skip
almost
there.
Gets the skip. Wow, he had some really good luck through all those encounters.
Yeah, if you don't do the setups, you can be looking at 2 to 3 encounters easily. So come away with one and a pretty good try at a skip is pretty darn good, especially that first go.
Yeah, Solefad actually was trying to do the manipulation, and he ended up not being able to get it. And once you mess it up, it's just going to be encounter after encounter. It's really hard to recover. Terrible luck for Xarnax. He should probably just go in, or maybe we'll take a few more steps and get the next encounter set to spawn. And he does get it.
All right, pays off. He's through. He gets to attempt the super jump here. Meanwhile, Solefad working his way through Maze Island to get to Palace 4. The detour they made to collect the lost child in the cave and then bring them over to Darunia was for the Reflect spell. It's necessary to beat the boss of Palace 4. There's no other way to beat him.
Whoa, first try from Xarnax.
Bam, he's on fire. This is a really good run for him, actually. I want to reiterate that he's very far ahead of his personal best and probably getting further away based off of
2 goal splits so far.
Yeah. And this segment has gone extremely well for him already.
And not going so well is Solefad's controller.
Yep, there it is. Better here than in some other places, but the way it's happening, I think you're right. It's probably a driver thing. It's probably going like ba-doom,
right,
ba-doom, and then yeah. That's gotta be frustrating. Maybe it's like a bad USP port. Who knows? I'm sure he wishes he knows what the problem is. But he's just gonna keep going, man. His screen is coming in really nice and sharp, so I'm guessing he's playing on emulator. So I guess keyboard strats could be a thing. Hold on a minute.
Alright, Solefad coming into Palace 4 here, and this is a place where you can use up to 4 death warps. You could even use 5. I guess you could die at the what you call it, at the boots and warp there, but no one does in this category. But there are 3 rooms that look like this. This one that Solefad just came into, with the lava at the bottom and a key on the far right. 3 rooms that look like this, and people tend to death warp in all of them. It saves, well, compared to the time that it takes to get the 1-up that you're spending here, it saves about 3 seconds for each one. Overall, it's more like 10 seconds or so if you just count the time, that you're saving by going back to the left by dying instead of walking back. And we see Solefad is not going to take that death warp because he's already had some unintentional deaths, and he does not know when his controller is going to poop out on him again, so
Yep.
you sure don't want a game over.
He does have a comfortable lead here. A game over is really the thing that is really going to swing things, and that's his main concern here. Sorry I had to step away there. I thought I heard someone knocking on my door, but I think it was actually the cat who just is bored or whatever, but she managed to knock on the door in such a way as to sound like a person knocking, so good on her. Totally fooled me. Xarnax coming into Maze Island here. Not that far behind. He was definitely much further behind at this point in their last race.
Right, 1 game over could make the difference here. Solefad has an unfortunately timed game over. I think that Xarnax could creep into the lead, but bear in mind that Xarnax is already down to, I think he has 1 more life left that he can use, although he did just pick up a 1-up, didn't he? So he's probably got 2 lives that he can use. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know if we will see game over in this race. We might see an intentional one in Palace 7 if these guys haven't game overed before then. And Solefad again skipping the intentional game over. Or intentional game over, the intentional death, rather, to death warp out of that room. But he probably will want to take the last one because you need to get all your magic refilled by the time you fight Carrick. Carrick is the boss of this palace, and you need to have the reflect spell to fight him.
And it costs a fair chunk.
Yeah, you have, magic. It costs, I think, 5 boxes to use. Somewhere around that.
It's nice to have a shield spell to sort of, it's not really probably going to be necessary, but if Carrick decides to teleport into you a couple times, there's nothing you can do about it, so it's nice to have a little bit of leeway there with the shield spell.
So Solefad's about to finish up the right side of this palace. This whole palace is divided into 2 halves. The right half is where you get boots, the left half is where you go to the boss. And it all divides right there on the first elevator that you enter from. Xarnax not casting jump there, he's going to do it without. It's not too hard a jump to make, it's just the risk is if you fall through, you've lost, I don't know, probably about a minute. So most people like to cast jump there, but I think Xarnax is wanting to conserve his magic. He's not even casting jump in this room.
Yeah.
Which a lot of people do, just to save time not having to break these pedestals with the flames on top. And he does get that. He can cast Fairy. He probably could have cast Fairy there.
Just a couple of jumps, no sweat.
Yeah, it's not too bad. This is not so risky. Not like the rooms where, the later rooms where you get those flying heads. Solefad going in for the last key, I believe, in this palace.
You have to do this maneuver here where you dig out 4 blocks underneath you and then 2 of those to the right, 2 of those to the left, so you give yourself a staircase down to this key. You have to do it enough that you actually get pretty good at it, but it's always interesting to see just how consistent players are at this particular block digging technique. It looks like Solefad is doing okay.
Yeah, he's probably going to take an intentional death here. He's casting the jump spell, because this room is awful. Trying to do this without the jump spell, pretty awful. And here we see him. Oh, he gets the red jar, so he doesn't need to take that death, but he does it anyway. He'd already planned to do it. And he's got a bunch of lives left over. Still four lives, so he can die 3 times and not be game overed.
Yep, even with a malfunctioning controller, that's a pretty comfortable amount of lives here, but I guess you're never comfortable when your controller's doing what it's doing. But that death is going to save him a lot of time, and it's going to go ahead and take it. Xarnax here is approaching the second opportunity for a death warp. Not going to take it, does not have the lives to spare.
Nope, he's got enough magic. Yeah, he will need to take the next one, but he is got enough magic to cast the jump spell, which is the important part. He needs to cast jump at least once to be able to get the key that's in the ceiling. Solefad coming up on Carrick right now, cast Reflect and cast Shield preemptively. Ducks to get that first hit, and the rest of this fight is just crouch in the corner and hope that you get good luck. That's really all that you can do. He is getting fairly average luck right now.
Yep.
That was like average or above.
I'd call that average.
Average.
Teleported in there to poke him once. You can see it did less than one heart. What is that? A life box?
Box, I guess.
Notch? I don't know what to call it. One of those little boxes. So when you've got the shield spell, you can take quite a few hits, and he doesn't teleport all the way to the side of the screen all that often. It's really not a danger, but the fact that you can't do anything about it at all is a little frustrating.
Yep, that's right. So Solefad walking up to Palace 5 at this point. Let's see if he goes for the heart container. He doesn't, so that probably means he's going to set up a certain encounter manipulation that we'll talk about after Palace 5, which involves getting the heart container later. And right now he's got a lot of experience totaling up. He's about to take his final attack level. There we go, attack 8. So that is your maximum attack. Everything only goes up to 8. Any level that you try to earn beyond 8 will just give you a 1-up.
I think Bad Break says he's come up with a strat where it's better to take the extra life coming out of this palace, or maybe it's Palace 6, than it is to actually put it towards levels. He feels it saves more time, and that will be the way of the future, so says the Prophet Bad Breaks. We'll see how that shakes out, but it'd be yet another sort of, I would call that sort of a major evolution in Zelda 2 speedrunning, an entire experience route change, even if it's just one change at the end. The fact that something as solid and thought out as this could change in that way would be really interesting.
Yeah, a lot of things we see changing out of this game as more and more people play it, particularly this category. Okay, but to answer Shy54's comment there, or question there, what do I think about the strategy of taking fewer death warps as race strats? I like it. I think it depends how far ahead or behind you are. If you're very far ahead, I'd say don't take the death warps at all, because if you're far enough ahead, the only thing that's going to cause you to lose the race is a game over. If you're, let's say, a minute ahead or more. If you are a minute behind or more, I would say maybe don't take the deaths, because you're hoping that your opponent game overs and that you don't. So you're not really planning on making up small amounts of time to catch up to your opponent if they're already like a minute or two ahead of you. So really you just got to play it safe and hope they don't, and that they get a game over. But if you're a little bit behind or a little bit ahead of the other player, then I'd say go for it, because those few extra seconds they might make the difference. That's my thoughts.
Yeah, that's some strategy talk there from high-level player. Feasel here is the 10th seed, but he did beat the 6th seed
by not getting
a controversial match.
My opponent did.
Exactly. Well, you kind of followed your own strategy there a little bit. I mean, it's definitely not like it's not like your opponent was playing risky there, and that cost him his lives. It was definitely sort of a fluky thing that happened to him. Anyway,
Xarnax not getting the first hit.
Some really good points, though, I think.
Yeah, it's something to consider. There's a lot of things that you can do that are more or less risky on the route. There's a lot of things that you can do to save small amounts of time.
Terrible luck on Carrick.
Yep, not gonna be one of his best fights.
It looks like he's still gonna be about a minute and a half ahead of his PB here. Thinking about it. gets the life level up.
That's a weird one to take there. That may have been an accident. People typically don't go above 744 here.
So this palace bonus is only going to be 1100 as opposed to what, like 5,000, right?
It's a lot. I can't remember exactly how much, but it's normally
attack 8 minus magic 4.
I think you actually go up to 9,000, don't you?
It's going to be a lot.
Yeah, it'll be a lot.
So I really don't. That's got to be a mistake. Just kind of panicking when the thing popped up, and that's going to cost him. It's definitely going to take a game over now to catch up, even though they are in the same palace here. M says he didn't think he had enough to get the attack level. That might be true. How much did life cost him?
Yeah, he had Magic 4 there, and people don't typically take Magic 4 in Palace 4. Usually you stick with Magic 3, and you could maybe take Life 4. But the Magic levels start to get considerably more expensive than the Life levels do by this point in the game. So, yeah, taking Magic 4 having Magic 4 there, you're probably not too likely to be able to get a big Palace bonus.
Does remember the key? We've had people forget that key. That basically you have to ferry past it quite a ways and then double back for it because the ferry cannot pick up keys. And when you get, in the moment into the flow of things, it's really easy to come out of that screen and just keep going. So good that you didn't forget, because that can be a major time loss here. And you really, a game over hurts a lot. It's probably going to put Xarnax in the lead if Solefad game's over. Mm-hmm. Game overs? That's game probably,
overs, probably, I guess.
Yeah. So if he's going to go ahead and throw away a minute there, suddenly the game over is probably not going to be the difference there. So he definitely needs to stay close here if he wants a chance at winning this thing. His blocks are helping him out there.
Yeah, a little bit. I thought it was looking bad for him at first, but then he actually got a decent enough pattern to work with. Killed one of those MOAs accidentally, almost. I think it was sort of a reflex decision to strike that thing. But that's going to, well, if you really care about keeping your 6 count well regulated, that's a spot where it's going to throw off your count if you're counting and getting drops in certain spots. When I run this, I do try to get my drops in controlled locations, not just kill whatever. So that always bugs me when I kill that thing by accident, and especially when I don't notice until later.
Yeah, it also helps just sort of when you need to make a decision. This is the point in this next room is when I have to make the decision, so I'm going to think about it and be ready for it. But then all of a sudden that point changes and you're a little less certain about that, and it can be distracting.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons I actually don't like to pick up 200 bags that I don't strictly need. I mean, people will do it just so they'll get their next level up sooner, but I like knowing exactly when the level up prompts are going to happen. This is the kind of thing that it just pops up the moment you get that amount of experience. It doesn't matter if you're in the middle of a jump, in the middle of fighting something. The game doesn't care. So it's sometimes a real surprise and very awkward to have things come up when you're not expecting.
I haven't been watching Solefad too closely. I didn't know if he picked up a Mago kill. But
he's
players
got
are
more
often
than enough experience.
Yeah, he's fine. But sometimes players are looking for an extra 200 experience or so from these Magos who are pretty easy to kill. I think if you get a down stab and then a backslash combo on them, they go down in just those 2 hits.
Let's see this Guma fight here.
Goes for the jackhammer, a little too high.
And he finishes him off. Pretty traditional strats there against Guma, and it went
nice
pretty well. Well executed.
The jackhammer there is pretty tough. You can't be too low or too high, basically, because he'll bounce off his helmet or run right into him. But if you can get inside him, you can mash down stab and do a whole bunch of damage real fast. It's the jackhammer technique. We pointed out the rejack on the Rebenak, but I don't think we ever actually called it the jackhammer or explained why it's so effective. It's because basically the animation for attacking with down stab is only 1 frame. I'm gonna interrupt that.
Yeah, we should talk
about the
about
river
this.
dance here. Oh, smart. It's playing it smart. There it is. Learning his lesson.
Not gonna soft
avoiding
lock.
the soft lock on the edge of the screen. Nice.
That's right. If he had gone off that screen just as he was getting a level up, which can happen in that spot and a couple other spots around here, you will soft lock, and that's what happened to me yesterday. Alright, so here he went for the heart container. He's going to take 2 extra steps right there. You saw him duck to the left and then back. And that is setting up the 2 enemy counters so that when he hits the grass right here, one of the enemy sets appears and the other set doesn't appear at all. And that gets him all the way up to this river demon, basically for free. And it even sets up a fence skip, which he just barely managed not to get.
Yeah, he must have been just a couple frames off there.
It was very close. That fence skip can be a savings of, I think about 20 seconds, I guess, if you get it right away. Maybe more like 15 seconds, because you have to take into account the time that you spend on the path encounter.
That's right. That was not actually... That's a very common soft lock spot, as you... just the way things work out. You know, usually you have about the certain amount of experience, and so it takes a certain amount of time for it to total up, and it takes a certain amount of time for you to get that heart container back. So it's very common for players to run into a soft lock situation, or at least a scare of one right there. So he knows that, and he's on the lookout for it, and he takes care of it. But that is not actually where the soft lock happened in their previous race. It was actually coming up in some of these forest sections.
Oh, we got another great encounter manipulation. Let's see, he ducks into the swamp to get a far spawn, and now he should pause buffer right there. Well, he didn't pause buffer, but that's the spot where the second set of monsters appears, where you would normally want to pause.
If he kills one of these orange guys here, he's going to get 50 experience and level up, and this is what caused him to soft lock last time.
Oh, he gets red guys this time, but yeah, he's soft locking one of those encounters where you don't really expect it.
Maybe he's decided straight up, I'm not going to kill these guys, not going to take this level up anywhere near the edge of any screen.
That's right.
Opting for fairy here. Some people go for fire and kill these tektites. Maybe they want to get that magic level up now. It certainly looks tempting when it's right there.
Yep, I've seen people kill those tektites to try to set up their large 6 count drop at a certain place in Palace 6. Because Palace 6, you're starved for magic, so getting a red jar drop in Palace 6 is a huge boon to you. So other people do it just because they're trying to get it so that they can take a magic level up at a certain spot to refill their magic, which is a more guaranteed way of getting your magic refilled. But yeah, lots of reasons to kill those tektites there. Right now getting a spell called Spell. Doesn't have a lot of uses, but it will get used a bit in this run. Immediately we're going to see it used to reveal a hidden secret in this town, which is the magic key. So that we'll see on the very next screen. But it actually has another use, which is to turn all the enemies on the screen into bots. Which, you might think, why would you ever do that? But there are some enemies that are actually harder to deal with than bots, even though bots are the thing that tend to ruin people's speedruns.
Yeah, especially if it's a flying thing who happens to be over a pit of lava when you cast it.
Right. Xarnax fighting Guma right now.
Yeah, he actually had a red jar drop that he passed up. And, oh, did he get it? No, he did not get it in time. He passed up the red jar drop, went back for it, decided it's worth it to top up my life here, just get a little bit more, so I have absolutely everything going into this Guma fight. And he waited too late to cast the life spell.
That's right, there's a bit of a delay.
Ends up taking a death there anyway.
Yeah, there's a delay after you cast the life spell before it actually takes effect, so you can get hit by an enemy and think, oh shoot, I'm about to die, cast life, and sorry, you're out of luck. It doesn't work for you.
Does clean him up the second time around with a very, very safe fight. But how is he doing on lives here? He must only have the one left, right?
I'm waiting to see him pop into the menu so we can check it out.
Yeah.
Guess he's not going to do it at the monument. He is actually still ahead of his PB. He's 49 seconds ahead of his PB currently. And he's going for the heart container after Palace 5, so let's see if he has learned this river dance. And I'm not sure what his plan is. Oh, he's going to take attack 8 here, so that's why he's not casting fairy or jump.
Yeah, it's actually pretty tricky to get out of the water and onto that ledge.
Yeah. You have to make a 3-block jump from a terrain that slows you down when you try to move in it. So Xarnax not taking the extra step that's necessary for river dance, but he does it there instead. There we go. He does the extra 2 steps. He doesn't hit the grass in the same spot that most people do, and that's why you saw 2 sets of monsters spawn instead of 1. So he did not do the river dance right, but he managed to get good enough encounter luck, and he gets a fence skip.
Nice. Things are going well for him today.
Yeah, so far he's just been charging through all these areas without stopping to do the manipulations and getting great luck with them.
Yeah, it's totally possible that you could get punished for them, but he's doing okay.
Solefad floundering a little bit trying to get into Palace 6. There's a really easy manipulation that you can do going from that heart container into Palace 6. You just got to know the right way to walk. We're in Palace 6 now. Let's get a background up. Here we go.
Meanwhile, I think this is not my stream frozen, but
Nope.
this is another controller malfunction here.
Yep.
In a
Again,
nice safe place.
Yeah.
That's nothing to attack him here.
That's perfect. You couldn't ask for a better spot to have that happen to you.
Yep. Pull the controller out, put it back in, or
Oh, look
whatever
at
he needs
this.
to do.
Something that we don't see much here. Xarnax going north into the swamp. Take a look at where he's at here.
Yeah.
He's going for a little-known one-up. And uh-oh, wait. Okay, good, yeah. I was going to say, wait, can you grab the one-up dolls up there? Because you normally
he's probably
don't.
used to this. We didn't get to see him do this in the last run. The race was over before he got here. So I imagine this is sort of part of his route. Maybe it's a backup strat because he is low on lives, but I'm sure he's ferried for that life before.
Yep. And he's another fairy. Yeah, that one up though, it's not a bad one up to get, guys. If you're in your race and you think you're in trouble and you get to this part, go for that one up. It's, I think, easier to get than the Palace 6 one up.
Just gonna go ahead and kill these Tektites here.
There
I
we
don't
can see
know
some
if
use of fire.
he's gonna be able to set up a drop based off of how he's had to improvise a little bit. So I don't know if that's his motivation or if that's just what he's used to.
Solefad here has fallen down a pit, does not want to waste his jump
boy.
spells, so he's trying to jump his way out of it naturally, but he said, I give up.
Yep,
you
it's
don't have
real
enough
hard.
magic to cast jump there, unfortunately, so he's got to hope for a red jar drop from this statue, which he does not get. He gets one more shot at it on the way out. But yeah, there's basically enough enough magic here to cast jump twice in that room back there, once in each direction. To cast jump at the boss, and then to cast fairy twice.
Not a super fast Ribonac kill, but mostly clean. Only takes one hit there. Yeah, getting out of those pits without casting jump is really hard. Link can make a 3-tile high jump, but you need to be at full running speed and you need to jump at just the right time. So getting up to full speed on that one little lip there is not easy. You have to actually jump out to the left, turn around, and start accelerating in midair as you come back to that lip, and then jump off of it as soon as you land, and that will just get you up there. We often see players, not want to cast jump, especially here in Palace 6. Magic is at a premium here, and they're like, I need to get out of here on my own, and they do it a couple times, and they just said, God damn it, and they end up casting jump. It's definitely not the first time we've seen someone do that.
Yep, and fortunately, Solefad got the red jar on the way back. That was a 50-50 shot, and he managed to get it. He probably could have cast the life spell. I think he had enough magic that he could have cast life for free there. But even so, he's in good shape. Only down 2 boxes of health.
And I think he's still got those 4 extra lives, too.
Yeah, he's still got a bunch of extra lives to work with.
So the game over that Xarnax is hoping for is looking less and less likely with each passing palace, but he's still hanging in there. Still about 2.5 minutes back, I guess. Maybe a little more now. But
this room right here got some lava pits to fall in, so this is definitely getting killed the area.
Some Mews here are like bots in their movements.
Yeah, they're a little easier to deal with. Mews are much more predictable because they're either going to start moving left and keep moving left, start moving right and keep moving right, or they're going to hesitate a little bit and then do one of those two things, whereas the bots can continue to change directions at any point in time. The Mews, you can read them. After seeing them on screen for about a second, you can tell which pattern you got.
Yeah, so no problem. He's through there. Whoop, a little late on the fairy spell, just for fun.
Sometimes it's fun to do that just to freak out chat, but
yeah,
I don't know. Sometimes you do it because
Don't
you realize
fall in the lava.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh. He's across though. I actually was a little worried he didn't have enough magic for it for some reason.
We're gonna get to see the second Rebanak fight of this palace here. He's standing in the right spot for a quick kill. Is he gonna get it though? No, you want to get 2 hits as he comes by you the first time, and then 2 more as soon as he gets off the horse. And that was pretty much an average kill of the Rebanak at attack 8.
Yep, you fight this 3 boss here twice as a mini boss. Only palace with mini bosses. I brought him back here. We're still looking for someone to name Rebanak's horse. We're theorizing that he rides a My Little Pony, and it's sort of like a metal hovering warhorse. So someone needs to come up with a punny name for the My Little Pony that he rides. Till then, we got this Barba fight.
Here. He's going for jump strats, and good execution there.
Yeah, 1 cycle. 1 cycle is the goal for this boss. For most players, if you're really looking for a couple seconds, then you want to do the jackhammer strat, which is where you jump up as he comes up and you just bounce on top of his head, giving it to him with the sword, and then come back down, hopefully on the platform and not into the lava, because it's not easy to control your left and right momentum while you're up there down stabbing him. So it's real easy to slip into the lava. We saw that actually happen to Bad Bricks. He was looking to make up some time. He was in a really close race, and he opted to go for the jackhammer strat. Didn't pay off the first time, and but he did get it the second time. And it's really risky for such a minor time saving. So most players, I think, especially now that we're in the losers bracket here, gonna play it safe, gonna play it smart, I think. And just go for this 1 cycle with these crouch stabs and jump stabs.
You can tell exactly where Barba's going to come up by the way you enter the room. You just have to make sure you don't lose any time jumping over those pits as you enter the room. And that, with attack level 8, means you're pretty much guaranteed a 1 cycle, using any one of a number of different strats you can use against Barba. Xarnax facing Rebanak, gets him against the left side of the screen, and he's trying to go for the level 3 version of the fight, which would work, except that was a very uncooperative Iron Knuckle. And here on Solefad's screen, I figured we would see this. We see fairy strats. So the first fairy that he used when he was going left was free, because you get the refill from that palace, from the level up after that palace there. And from here on out, he's going to cast fairy on all these bridges. He's probably going to go for the red jar as soon as he enters Valley of Death, which means that's going to refill his magic, and he's going to use the carryover from that to get 1 more free fairy cast at the first random encounter. And from there, he has enough lives that he can continue to cast fairy and take intentional deaths and not have to do anything really. It's difficult, just fairy over everything. So you see red jar right here. He queues up spell instead of fairy. That's a mistake. He could cast fairy here. He has enough for it. Well, I don't know. It's not a mistake. I'd say it's about equivalent, but he's taking a little bit more of a risk. It's equivalent time-wise, but it's more of a risk here.
Yep. I mean, you have to use the spell a couple times with this strategy, and that means you probably have a certain amount of muscle memory with scrolling to it and selecting it, so throwing that off with adding in a fairy at the start is maybe not worth it for just the minor safety aspect.
Sure.
It's Xarnax here is making his way through Palace 6. He's doing okay. He's a little low on life, but he's got all his magic, and that's very important in this palace.
Yep. We see these guys using pretty different strats. Everyone uses slightly different strats in Valley of Death here for these encounters, and I like the spell strat. It's cheaper than using fairy for everything. I mean, you'd use fairy for the first one because that one's free, but beyond that, using spell is the more magic conservative way to do it, and it's also relatively safe. We'll see Solefad's about to get a level up. It's somewhere along here. He's going to take his magic level 8. Man, can he get this encounter? He does not get the encounter skip. So he's going to do this one without casting any spells because he doesn't want to deviate from his magic usage plan here. And this time he gets the encounter skip. And casts spell again.
Yeah, upstab doesn't have many uses, but dealing with these eyeball enemies safely here is definitely a good one.
So Solefad choosing not to kill that blue Lizalfos. And, ooh, man.
Paying forward a little bit.
Yeah, he's going to try to get a little bit farther into Palace 7 before...
He's got to make up 200 experience here, though, so he's going to have to
kill one of the
fight
chickens.
one of these spicy chickens, yeah. Who are not fun to fight, but they're also kind of hard to skip, so... I don't know, I'm okay with this
Oh yeah, I'm
decision.
okay with it as well. Fighting this spicy chicken, sure, but he could go a lot farther into the palace before he does it. He doesn't have to do this first one. Xarnax, I think
if he
his
dies,
setup
then-
was to stand a little too far to the left, and so once again he got the Ribbonac to go off the screen a little bit. So that's something that you could fix just by better positioning. And we're about to see another Barba fight. And so he's going to go through here, hopefully without stopping. So yeah, now he has a guaranteed spawn of Barba on the right. He's not casting jump. He sure could cast jump at this point, but I think he's more comfortable doing jumpless strats.
Oh. Because I saw him open his menu, so I thought maybe he selected it and said, let's do this, and then didn't have enough. But that's a pretty good jumpless Barba kill.
Yep, you can't get him in one cycle jumpless. Well, I don't know, maybe you can. If you upstab like crazy and got double hits on the way up and down, maybe you could. But pretty tricky.
Meanwhile, Solefad does indeed have his magic 8 here, so even a game over at this point isn't going to set him back too far, because the game mercifully starts you in the Great Palace rather than all the way at the start of the game. Otherwise, it would be a huge time loss. So I don't think Xarnax really has a way to get back in this game, barring like a series of completely a soft lock,
or
sure,
complete
that's
failure of the controller.
Yes, yes. If it dies out completely, or he somehow manages to get 2,500 experience, or just a series of incredibly poor deaths over and over to multiple game overs. So, I guess it's fair to say that he still has a chance. But it's really not looking good at this point. There's always the chance that a game over happens. So sticking it out, following as close behind as you can, not letting him get too far ahead.
Yeah, Solefad's playing it really safe too.
Yep. But once they hit this Great Palace and they cash in that experience, the game over becomes much less of a threat. So Solefad's got to be feeling pretty good here as he moves through the rest of Great Palace.
Yeah, this is a pretty tricky room right here. That's why we saw him go back and retry getting that red jar, because you want to come in here with jump, possibly shield, and you're going to want to have as much life as you can get. And that went okay. It wasn't the cleanest room, but he didn't get stuck getting hit by that Bird Knight. Sometimes that Bird Knight gets right on top of you, and then it becomes so difficult to break out of it.
Yep, Scott Beekula's fury knows no bounds.
That's right.
If you leave him a 3-tile high gap, he will jump in there and follow you through that block mess and to the ends of the earth, really. Oof!
I don't know what his life count is.
One more.
This is his last one, so he can't die anymore. I actually
He's gonna ferry here.
Yeah, he's gonna ferry. I do like the jump strat for this bridge. It's a more economical version of the ferry strat, but I think that it still has some risks associated with it. You probably want to equip that fairy spell, even if you're using jump, just in case you need to. And he goes right for it, right there. Doesn't even stop to get an encounter on the path first.
Losing a bit of experience from those eyeball enemies. Chat really curious to know if Xarnax, while he's probably not going to win this thing, but how is he doing compared to his PB? He's still a minute ahead, so really good on him, actually.
Yep, he's a minute up on his PB, so he's going to be improving his PB this time, probably, but that's about all he's going to get from this race.
Clutch turnaround slash on that thing.
That was close.
So I guess he's hoping for maybe a Life 7 level up?
I'm wondering what Solefad's going to do here. He's got enough magic that he could just go in and do Thunderbird without the full complement of spells, and it looks like that is what he's going to do. He could have detoured left and gone after a red jar. I hope he knows what things he can cast. Okay, good. Yeah, you don't want to leave yourself without enough magic to cast Thunder. Yeah, he just does shield. He doesn't even do jump. That's pretty safe way to go. I like jump because you can get a lot more hits in on Thunderbird, but shield is by far the safest thing. Some people like reflect for safety, but either way, we got a pretty good jumpless Thunderbird right there. I think it couldn't have gone much smoother than that.
But it did go down. That is the big thing here. Just Dark Link left. With this amount of health, it takes a lot for Dark Link to really troll you, especially if he's going to cast the shield spell. But we've seen players opt for fire just to show off a little bit. He is going smart. He is going shield. Not going to let Dark Link take this away from him.
Yep, and he's using the corner strats. He's not using the jumping strats. There's a slightly updated version of this fight where you do standing slashes when Link is approaching you, and once Link is already in front of you, and we got time right there. Once Link's already in front of you, you can do a jump slash as if you were fighting an Iron Knuckle or something, and it gives you a much better success rate with your hits.
There it is. Final time of 1:25:16 from Solefad. He got another chance at this thanks to Xarnax, and he did capitalize on it. But I don't think Xarnax regrets offering him the rematch. I think he feels like the better man here kind of deserves to go on in the tournament, and I think he recognized that he was being really outplayed. And I think he's going to be very happy that rather than that terrible run he had going last time, he's ahead of his PB during this race. So I think he's going to be very happy with the way things turned out. Even if he is eliminated from the tournament here, because this is a loser's bracket match, which means both these players have lost before. Double elimination. This is their second loss. So Xarnax is out of the tournament here. Definitely one of the newer players who jumped in when this tournament happened. The idea of the tournament was to kind of bring in new players, so he was one of those new players, and I bet he had fun learning the game and doing what he could. So what I really hope to see, actually, I think the true winners are the people who come out of this tournament and keep speedrunning Zelda 2. That's what I really want to see, because how it's really cool to grow your community like that.
Yep, and next year, I have a feeling this was such a success, I have a feeling we'll see this again next year. Probably same category, same game, and we'll see some of these people who were newbies this time around will put in a lot of hours of practice, and they're going to be the Sharks in the next tournament.
How awesome would that be?
Yeah. So the winner of this, Solefad, plays... this hasn't been determined yet. It's going to be either King Doll or
Bird
Traylini.
Knight bot eats through there. Okay.
Whew, yeah, that bot can sometimes give you a real surprise at the end. But yeah, the winner of this goes against King Doll or Traylini. Oh, here, this is a neat thing. We see Xarnax going for one of these walk-through-the-wall red jars. I'm not sure that you can do this without the jump spell. Yeah, he's got to use the jump spell. And
that's why it's so risky. You do lose magic every time you get a Bird Knight rather than a red jar. You lose time and magic, so really, really risky there, but it pays off.
I would have done it if I was him.
Yep. He was in a really tough spot, and there's so many enemies that can cause problems here. Keep in mind, he's got life 6 here. Well, actually, no. I guess most players have life 6. What's different is he has normal. Magic 7 rather than magic 8. But still, even at 6, Link does get knocked around quite a bit by these great palace enemies here, and let's see if he goes for another jar here. I bet he will. Yep. Back up. One more try. Nope. Back
trying
up.
Again. Will
One
he do
more
it
try.
Again? Yeah, let's do it.
If you do it once, there's no reason why to not do it again and keep doing it, right?
Well, yeah, you don't suddenly decide that you don't want it anymore.
You're in the same situation.
Yeah, it's the same. It's the same chance of getting it. So.
Oh, sorry, bracket commander. Our Nightbot is sleeping, but I think I've typed it before. There it is. Bam.
Yeah, what is with Nightbot?
There's the link to the bracket.
All right, we got Xarnax coming into the Beacula room. Let's see how he's able to deal with it. This is one of probably the most challenging room to deal with in this palace.
He's just gonna ride his head all the way across the room. Nice.
It's generally not good. You don't want him to be set up. You want him to actually go left while you're going right and end up giving you a big following distance.
Want to get him off the screen as much as possible, but it works out for him pretty well. Only takes one hit, I think. That's about the best you can ask for when you're dealing with Scott Beacula. He's 195 away from getting his Magic 8 level up. So it's a little tempting to fight one of these chickens maybe, but with this amount of life, I don't know. Ducks under this Bird Knight. This is kind of the last major obstacle. As you can see, they're absolutely relentless.
Quite
He will
an
follow you all
obstacle.
the way down this hole. He's out of there.
Breathing a sigh of relief, I'm sure. And does he? Yep, he goes for the fairy. This is a junction here where you can go for a fairy on the right and a 1-up on the left. Yeah, he probably made the right choice going with the fairy if this is his last life. It was interesting he chose not to take an intentional game over when he entered this palace. It's in the rules that you can do it here. You can take a game over from the first enemy in the palace.
Oh, you know what? He probably wants a PB, right? Because you do need to do a 1 credit clear here.
That's right.
And your time does not go up on the leaderboard if you die. So, but he is losing time over his. Oh, that's his gold split. So he's still doing okay. But yeah, I think he wants a PB here. So despite the risk, he's going to play it out and see if he does it legit 1 credit clear.
Yep. He didn't really need that 1-up. He's far enough in here that there's no real obstacles besides this one spicy chicken right here.
I think he's feeling a little shaky. You know, it's been a rough Great Palace. There's been a lot of extra hits he's taken. He's relied on these jars quite a bit. And, I mean, he's on PB pace during a race. He knows we're restreaming it, so he knows he's got a couple hundred people watching him.
Sure.
So I'm sure he's like, let's do this outright. Let's finish real strong and make sure we don't end up with a game over here at the end. So yeah, look, he's got
going for the
3
red jar.
minutes here.
So this is what I would do, is go for this red jar. And that's not how you want to do that. If that guy spawns, you want to hit the upper block and not break the lower block, and that makes it much easier to kill that red Bird Knight. See if he does the same thing here. Oh, he gets the red jar. Thank goodness for him. Right. And he does not have the ability to cast life at this point. Or he could probably cast life and thunder, but that's it. He decides to not even try. Oh wait, he's at Magic 7, so never mind. So yeah, he would not have been able to cast life there.
He gets thunder and maybe jump, I guess.
Thunder and jump.
His best chance.
Or he can do thunder. He's going to do just
there he
thunder.
goes. If you lure Thunderbird all the way to the sides of the screen the way he's doing, it means he comes down in the middle here and you get these 2 free hits. This is the best way to fight him without jump. It seems he's very familiar with it, and he's making good use to kite Thunderbird around here and get this done without taking a single hit. Nice, Xarnax.
And he's listening to beeping the whole time.
Yes, that's true.
He's got beep, beep in his head.
All these people are watching low on lives here.
And he got the very fortunate life level. I was trying to see if there's some way he could maybe have gotten that life level earlier, but it seems like he took it in a good spot.
I don't think I've seen anyone not get hit on Thunderbird.
Yeah, and it's exceptionally tricky when you're not using all those spells that people normally use to make it easier. So that was a really clean fight. That's an impressive Thunderbird fight for the strats that he was going for. He executed really well.
Real clutch. He's going to be happy about that, especially because his time is ticking down and he's still got like a minute 40 over his PB. So just a matter of how much Dark Link wants to take away from that. But it is going to be a new PB by a long strat. A minute 30 here is his new PB.
Nice. Took a big chunk off that PB time. Nice going, Xarnax.
It is now a 132.57.
Well, you can show your support to the runners. You can show your appreciation for the race that they did for you today by following them. Their channel names are the names that you see up there on the screen. Twitch.tv/those 2 things, Xarnax42 or Solefad.
Yeah, absolutely follow the runners. I hope maybe they'll keep doing Zelda 2. That's what I want to see. I want to see Xarnax keep going, keep lowering this PB, going from 130 to 120. That's when you really need to start putting in some work, and so it'll be really fun to see if he starts going for that time and starts preparing for hopefully next year's tournament. That would be really awesome. But man, this race was definitely one of the most fun to cast so far.
It was fun. I think both players really Well, Xarnax played extremely well for his current level of PB, and I was really happy to see him get such clean fights all over the place, and just really put together a pretty solid run, despite some real risky stuff at the end. I mean, being down to his last life and doing Thunderbird with no health left. That added some excitement to it. And Solefad, despite the controller issues that he had, managed to not get one that killed him.
That's
controller
right.
Malfunction that killed him. It was really lucky for him there.
He's got some time before he needs to do his next race, so hopefully he can track down the problem and come with a better controller situation next time.
Yep.
How are we doing on other races?
Okay, we got
today?
one more for you today. We're going to be, not right now, we're going to shut down the stream, raid somebody in a moment. But later this evening, 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time, that is going to be Lack Attack versus Jam Evil. So that's one you really want to see.
Lack Attack, I've heard that name before.
Yeah, you've heard that guy. Lack Attack is a Zelda 1 runner who has moved into Zelda 2 here and picked it up very quickly, and even started teaching Author Blues to run it. So he's had some experience as a teacher of it as well as a player. And we've got Jam Evil, who's been part of commentary and restreaming teams, and he's quite knowledgeable about Zelda 2, and he can definitely put together a good run, so that'll be a really fun race to watch. That's 9:30 p.m. Eastern. You can watch it here on this channel.
It should be pretty close too, right? Their times are pretty, if I recall. Maybe I'm making that up, but yeah, if you've been a fan of the tournament so far, definitely go and root for Jam Evil, because he's been a big part of.
Well, it's looking like
making this whole thing go.
Yeah, it's looking like Black's got a significantly better PB than Jam Evil, but I don't know how up to date these things are, honestly.
Right. Yeah, players have been practicing since those times were locked in, and they could have got much better times by now. So it's not the greatest indication of who is the better player, but it gives us a pretty good idea. Still, you're going to want to see Lack, and you're going to want to see Jam Evil, so definitely check that out. 9:30, that'll be here on Speed Gaming. You can follow us, follow the channel. You can follow us on Twitter as well, at Speed Gaming Show, and we'll tweet out when that's about to start. But I think, where are we going to send these guys?
Yeah, let's go get a stream raid. Yeah, that should be an excellent race. Very close, huh? He's improved his PB.
Xarnax is rating Canna Fatman. What is he doing? Oh, sorry, Roland Hammer. The next match is going to be 9:30 p.m. EST, so that's going to be in about 5 hours. So you probably don't want to wait around here, though. We'd be touched if you did. So we're going to find another place to send you.
Yeah, I think we'll do King Hippo. He's actually doing a run right now of Zelda 2.
All right. Is it just King Hippo one word, or?
Yeah, King Hippo 423.
423. So there it is. Go there. And
Yeah, wish him good luck on his